before he died.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not too sure, but actually there's a problem with grackles that you're looking at. The grackles are native to the area.
Oh, I certainly know what a grackle looks like because I've got tons of them around my house. And these things are huge compared to a grackle.
Okay, well there must be a raven then, because ravens were very sacred to the Indians around here, all the natives around here, so they're probably fairly common with that. And you look at the Cherokees, and so I tend to wonder if they're just not drawn here with that. I'm not sure.
Right.
But
very well could be. The shape of the lake looks like a raven too.
yeah, it's
all
funny.
these weird coincidences
Lots
that
of
don't
weird
line
little
up.
coincidences, isn't it?
Yeah, they all converge. So, when any of you guys are ready,
Okay, I'll stop my impromptu.
Cool. Is it we come camping here all the time? You know, frequently? I did not know any of that.
History connects you to the land. Really.
Oh, yeah.
Study history.
so I'm gonna push record on this thing.
Probably turned itself off.
Okay. So, given any kind of class before, so it's going to be a learning experience for me.
Make sure it's...
Take inspiration off her, but you know, we'll see how it goes. And the mostly about the ritual and liturgy and that we have, and neo-pagans in general have with liturgy. This druidry that is available, and look at it from just a generalistic, but kind of emphasize those things. And so, phases, just arbitrary on it or organized. This is as a classification. Those steps are is the participants and the people involved, centering one back to their center, stressed out sometimes, and that would, but that's not a center of foods to dig in and join them and every mind. The second is mostly about the ghost mythological, as well as the recreation of time and space, which is symbolic of staking out areas of order out of the chaos that's present. Phase 2 is basically first phase also includes statement of prayer. We can negate kind of through them and call entities from within, full of energy, to the powers. The major the energy to the occasion, packaging and gifting that we phase 2 to them in a manner that they can use.
It's actually very creepy, added in all this Greek and all this Egyptian system, and things like that. But that's the people still use hermetic. It's kind of based on hermetic magic back then, but they use all the same symbols like that and a lot of hermetic magic tradition, and it's kind of brought me there. But it's changed through the
There's already been evident a lot of the practicing, rabbis who use the Kabbalah, and a lot of the symbols are brought in hermetic magic. And so a lot of people have a hard time creating for ritual and liturgy, borrow what's already there, which in my opinion doesn't say that that's wrong. We try to create a circle. What we do is we to watch the wave between this world. That guardian opens energy in the world that we're in, almost like a rather than a battery that has to get charged, and we take this energy and use it for our own purposes. Our purpose is to commune in those flows of the power of being these. And so it depends on if you want to keep the that will dictate requires us to keep the mundane space, and there are references towards nearly all the creation myths that we have, and nearly all the evidence of creation in other cultures that have been written out by Christian monks. All those describe how the first thing that happened before existence, or before our world could come into chaos, was removed the people in the land. The purpose of this and the members. Pagans, we don't hold beliefs of for us to be cleansing the folk, is cleansing them of some innate evil that they can be sacred for that time, is to kind of help focus them on the right and cleanse them of that chaos of those mundane energies that get associated and attached and stick onto us from our mundane lives. The principles of contamination in incompatible thoughts and energies dilutes intention and produces undesired or sometimes unforeseeable events, and you really don't want that to happen when we're messing with metaphysical things. And I've seen some, slightly coincidental weird stuff happen in core liturgies that I've done and that I've seen performed on. People's thoughts might be off over here, and the liturgy just doesn't gel. In fact, the last rite that I did, I thought I did poorly because of the lackation and stuff. And when we had our first meeting together online, I got more spiritual food out of that than the rite that I had done. And that's one of the undesired effects of having these additional thoughts. People get distracted, etc. Special attention is needed for those who don't feel like they belong to wrongdoing. Again, we don't have an idea of original sin, but an example would be a hunter who has accidentally killed an animal who they consider their bloodkin. They might feel remorseful. They might feel that when they come to the key offerings part in honor to their kin, that is down upon and they might. And so special attention is needed to get that person not only into feeling like they belong, but in addition to feeling that, to also dispel whatever negativity that act is psychically associated with them. This is kind of considered purification, more acceptable versus to cleanse energies out of motivation to make amends or whatever. We don't want to do things just because we feel we have to. We want to do them because that's what we want to do, etc. So I gave that example. Special also can charge the sacred space, enabling more effective control of the energy flows. I don't have any examples of this, but one that I can think of is just on pre-ritual offerings to the land, something that you might do separate from everyone else, or the clergy might only do, or this is done in a lot of ADF festivals by having an opening rite to kind of stake out the land for the entire purification and blessings, contemporaries, etc. Faith, although one way of wording leads the gatekeeper to garden. And so that was the longest phase. Are there any questions about that? City.
Speak up a little though. You start getting softer.
Sorry about that. Well, I guess this is still in phase one. And that is centering, grounding, linking, and merging. Centering is near the center of awareness and zero point, that ground zero of who you are, the feeling that you get after you relax and let your stress out or your anxieties or whatever. And it's not just stress too, because you could be, a person might be manic and enthusiastic, and they might need to let some of that hyperactivity out before they can effectively share in the exchanges. There's really no wrong or right that is your center of awareness. You have to and kind of come to feel the time, or you already. Grounding is either making psychic, the physical link, or draining off excess. True meditations and centering through stimuli, guided auditorial meditations, but accomplishes both of these steps. You get a connection with the land, and you also, whatever was in your mind before, typically, if done successfully, those things can be released and let go, especially through the connection that you just made to the land. It's kind of, you're making a channel for that negativity to be dispelled, or those excess thoughts to be dispelled. The earth connecting sense is the key in our work as druids. As druids, we try to connect with the land and that what is natural, and whereas other neo-pagan faiths don't necessarily concentrate on that per se. One example I can think of is military and those traditions that are called, kitchen witches or kitchen witchery, where they closed-in area where you constantly do your same stuff is performed, which is separate from the land, although you can still connection with that area as well. This is kind of like sacred recognition of community without having hierarchy or I kind of skipped something, sorry. The next step is linking the group psychically and merging with the group mind. Trying to create a central mental mind that we can all join is what that meditation is about. We all go through the same thought patterns, and as we do this, our thought patterns kind of might shift and align a little bit more. In meditation with a group, you might think of things regularly where you've meditated a certain way, you think of a tree a certain way, and you visualize that tree the same way. But when you do the same thing with a group mind, I've noticed often that your meditation or the way that you represent these things to yourself can shift, and whenever that happens to me, it's kind of like I start to think of one thing one way and then I hop to another, and I often think that this is maybe ADHD or something similar, causing me to try to hop to the next thought. But it doesn't happen all the time, and I've noticed that it's kind of like everybody else's visual representations are merging with everybody else's, and we all kind of form the same bond, and it may be different from how we normally or originally do these things. It doesn't always happen, it doesn't happen to everyone, but kind of interesting. This group is sacred recognition, hierarchy, or social limits. So how, we can think of King Arthur and the Round Table, which would be a great way to have a group tradition with Druid is to make a visualization or a guided meditation of a round table. I think that's so awesome. Where the table is the focus of the group mind, and there's no peons. Everybody has a share. Some techniques are usually prayer, song, etc. And typically, once the group mind is established, then we begin a statement of purpose. Here we're reminded of the purpose of ritual, worship, We're reminded of the purpose of ritual. This can be celebration, this can be worship, this can be to bring rain or to heal the land or growth, or it can be other purposes that the group has agreed upon. Here it's important, though, to recognize that we cannot the tendency to have overt agendas and covert agendas. We each have reasons that we're here, and we share those reasons, and those typically form overt agendas. We all want to do things, and we tell them, hey, we tell our followers, hey, be awesome with the power and get rid of some of that, as well as enjoy. We also have agendas that we may not know about, and put a handle on things and to know because they can be negative, although they rarely. Not to say that practice is bad, because we can't avoid having things or reasons that we don't want to share with others, or we may not even want to share with ourselves for doing this. One part in the statement of purpose is that the group is told that those actions are traditional or ancestral. Whether they are has power, because it kind of gives the background, it gives people a more closer connection with ritual. Somebody might show up right now and try to join a ritual without fully knowing the state, might feel like they're missing something, although if they just heard a simple sentence, they'd be like, oh, okay, and then they would feel like they're on the same page. And I kind of feel that, Druids often described as Celtic myth as untruths that are true. Things that we may not be able to say actually happened in the literal sense, but things that we mentally say did happen, of providing a basis for, but also to kind of reinforce those cult themes that have stayed with our ancestors and Druids over the years. Christians can write out, Christian monks who wrote down the myths and stuff, they can write out concepts all day long, but they're really important. The trunk concepts that give our culture's identity are still going to be there. Giving that information just totally helps the group get on the same page and understand what's going on. In addition to being told that the actions are traditional or semi-traditional or ancestral, it's often said that the ritual or sacrifice or ceremony is invented by a deity, or is invented by somebody to commemorate a deity. Predominantly in Indo-European myth, an example of this would be the twin sacrifice. Typically there's a twin, a cosmic twin, to allow its existence. Typically, and becomes a god of the this can be seen in an example of in Norse myth where the giant Ymir was slain and his body was made into Midgard, or our middle world. The Celtic example of this can be not an example. I lost it. I can't quite remember, but I'll come back to it if I should have made a note of it. The human need to make sacred relations between space and time and ritual is one of the reasons why either nonsense, fantasy, or myth or history is told during the statement of purpose. We all have a need to make relations, and if we know about someone or something, or have simply even been introduced to someone or something, we kind of feel more of a bond than someone we haven't. And that's one of the reasons why that's a very important step in neo-pagan ritual. Another way to perform the statement of purpose is the specification of deities, to mention the deities of the occasion, or the deities who have sacred titles. This step can often be very short, just mentioning them, and typically these deities that are mentioned don't create, sometimes even one, but it's not required. It's so important, who they are. A lot of people feel weird about showing what deities during a working, what those deities represent, and then investing their own energies. It's kind of like how you invest into a company and you find out that they do wrongdoing and you wish you knew what they were, and that goes true with anything else. So that's pretty much phase one. Getting the ritual started, getting everybody filled in, creating that group mind, just sets the stage for what we're actually doing. And that is to kind of commemorate and recreate our world through ritual. And so the second step is recreating the cosmos, going through the different parts that we recognize, or the different sections, I'd like to say rather, that and how we section off our world in terms of powers, or worlds, or 9 worlds, and investing a little energy into, or mana into each of those to kind of recreate or even commemorate when this was first done, when our world came into existence. part of recreating the cosmos is defining it. The center of the world's creation is often seen as the sacred center. This can be viewed as a sacred mountain, such as Olympus, a world tree, or trees in general, such as the Yggdrasil in the Norse culture, or just the general prevalence of trees and such in Celtic culture. The concept of the sacred center not only reinforces sacred space, but also sacred time, in that we start at the beginning of recreating the cosmos, implying that time kind of says to the group mind that, hey, the creation of the world begins on the timeline, their point and rhythm. And through that we reinforce and solidify our concepts of what sacred time. Then typically there's a gatekeeper entity or spirits of the directions that are called, that is part of reinforcing this the cosmos, or recreating the cosmos. The Greeks have a word called quintessence, or quintessential. And quint is a word for five, or four rather. And the essential building blocks held by the Greeks that in Hermetic magic, the calling of the elemental power to the, and we kind of combine all that into, creates a way between the worlds through a mist, which can also be considered, I've heard Ian Corrigan use the word triessence. If quintessence is the essential building block of the four elements, then triessence is central building of the two powers that we recognize of chaos and order. And that a lot of our rituals and a lot of liturgies is done when those two powers merge. Mists arrive, and those mists, the gatekeeper opens his ways between. So he kind of serves the gatekeeper deity, or the psychopomp, kind of serves the purpose of communicating or connecting with that triessence, or the essence of all being. The arrangements of the gate, the gates, or keeps over, is another thing that should be thought upon. It can be done a pillar, Proto-Indo-European from Celtic stuff. I'm talking with Sarah, the Grove organizer for the Proto-Indo-European earth culture grove, and they view the tree with the branches and the leaves and stuff as the cosmos. And the fire is on the land, and the waters below. But more commonly, it's viewed that the waters below, the celestial fire of the stars and the moon and the sun is above, and the tree acts as a way between. And so how you arrange these gates, either vertically or geometrically, either in a triangular fashion, in an equilateral triangle, or you line it up in a straight line, it really doesn't necessarily matter, just so long as it speaks to everyone in the group. Let's see. The next portion of this is power raising. This can be done in many different methods. Typically in ADF and in Druidry in general, beings are called through invocations, kindred chants or songs, calling the powers of land, sky, and sea. Really anything that we invoke and honor in our Druid, predominantly Druid influenced rituals, is sort of a sort of power raising, even if it's just simply recognition. And that's just a common theme. I could use some examples if I thought about it, but I didn't have enough time to prepare. The energies that we create, we do this by calling to the deities of the occasion in detail. At the statement of purpose, we mention them. We may have mentioned some of their qualities, but this is really where each individual deity of the occasion gets their own spotlight. If not, they wouldn't be very occasional, because they might as well be considered or lumped in with the kindred offerings. Then a preliminary power raising is done. This can be through song, chant, meditation, often a visualization, and the seeing within the body and sending that in a flow direct towards the gates. Sacrifice is made, and that's really where we take that energy, bind it to the offerings that we're giving, and give it to the deities or the powers that we call. This is often sent as prayers or chants or gestures. And then after the sacrifice is almost like a solidification or affirmation or accepted, and that is called, it's right after the prayer of sacrifice, and then that's kind of just a solid, here things are, this is the last effort to give, and then often the step also involves either for each individual to come say words or perform a piece of art or give their own energy in their own way to their own deities. When that's done, the next step, or phase 4, is receiving the blessing. In ADF, we don't have one of the reasons why we don't have an idea of a supreme being is not to say that there's not one in existence, but we don't honor a supreme being in our rituals, because the ghosty relationship of giving energy or effort or time or even something of value to somebody, and then them giving it in return for the sake of keeping that relationship going, for the goodness of keeping that relationship going, it totally gets changed when you add a supreme being. You no longer reciprocate with that being. That being, that it's unforeseen that being has a personality. Concentrating on those, you then become getting that deity's approval, or groveling or begging their approval. It's not about gifting and receiving. And so that's one of the key things that gives ADF its identity in ritual, is that we receive that blessing and get it in return, not just for the sake of the blessing, but for the sake of keeping that relationship going. The universe can exist with no life at all, dead state, and there are no relationships going, and things can just be like that, and there are no problems. But no one exists, and so the purpose of creation is to have those bonds and those cycles of sharing and activity, just so we don't have a dead universe. And you often receiving the blessing, it's important to not do it for the sake of receiving the blessing, because once you've received it, you typically don't care about that relationship anymore. You've got what you want and you're out. So just realizing why we do this, and it's the sake of keeping those relationships going, because we're all here and we all have to get along, including those powers that exist that are chaotic, that create friction with it. The preparation for receiving the blessings is typically takes the form of they also might need some additional work done in order for them to feel like they can accept the blessing in return. And so we give our energy and mana to the gods, and they give it back. And so in order to receive that, we also have to be reminded of our group goals, because we have formed a group mind, and so members in that group mind can affect others and affect others' ability to receive this energy or this blessing. And so some liturgical step or other is done to remind the group of its intentions. However, that's not to drown out individual concerns, because getting the folk open to receive heavily depends on their individual issues or states of mind, but which might be like, oh, I need to take care of this. I neglected it. I forgot about it. Now I'm not in the right state to receive the blessing. Who knows? You might receive that blessing. That energy goes towards resolving that. You might do a magical working silently or publicly in the ritual with that mana to take care of that. So if you're not in the right state to receive that mana, then you're just going to continue worrying about what problem you might have, and nothing's going to get solved metaphysically, and you're not going to be involved in the ritual, etc. Often, after receiving or doing with it what we will, as a group and individually, we'll go through a regrounding phase, or a phase where we may not hang to excess. And I started doing, we would do them at midnight, and we'd be up to 5 a.m. and I'd have to go to work without any sleep because we weren't properly regrounding ourselves. The acceptance of the blessing is often done in the form of drink or food or anointing, or receiving something external, or something that wasn't there before, that now is there. One of the ways we do this is we pour the blessing during the ritual, although it can be done beforehand. Pouring it during the ritual creates the cup full of blessing, which is not in its original form when you started, so it's almost got a new flavor to it, or something has happened where the energy from the blessing can be infused into it, rather than cracking open an alcoholic container or a pail and saying, sip this. There's an action there binding that. It's also important that everybody realizes that when individual people accept this blessing, weird things can happen. Those strange things do happen, not distracting, using the blood away. People will, they might become ecstatic. Example of ecstatic is not term ecstatic in tongue. Bards used to be ecstatic, and poetry and words flow from their mouth without prior conception of what they were saying. You might have somebody just break out in song, and the appropriate thing to do at that time is to let those things happen. They may be from the gods, they may be from inspiration. It may be that that's their way of showing gratitude for the blessing. It's just important to make sure it doesn't interfere with our own spirituality, because we might not get out of it what we need. What is that word? Dance. People might bust out into interpretive dance or start dancing around a circle. Somebody might start singing. A person with an ailment, feeling sick, or with a serious ailment might miraculously feel better or be healed. It's been known to happen, and I've seen it myself. Somebody might get insights or inspiration. Last but most rare case is actual possession, which is separate from invocation or evocation, where we call the deities either within us or to an external place outside of us. Sometimes the deity, I'm going to possess you, the way things are, and what I need to yourself, or often, but it has been known to happen. And after accepting the individual blessings in a group manner and individually, it's kind of redundant there. We then reinforce the bonds. We strengthen the group mind. We do this before any magic is done. And one of the reasons why is because when we form a group mind, we will be able to share and utilize each other's energy for the magic that we do as a group and individually. And also, when we do things individually, in terms of key offerings, we kind of step off of the bit. So we want to really reinforce it before we continue the other parts of the ritual. Then after that's performed, working, to passage, those other things are done. here, the gods can grant energy for magical use. Um, One of the reasons why this is more effective here in this step is because the deities have seen how sincere we are. They've seen our intentions. They know that we've communicated with them and made efforts to make relations with them. And usually, when you're actively making relations with someone, you typically do it with the purpose of making that new relations rather than just bonding with somebody for a purpose. And so, after they've seen your intention and your relationship, they're more willing to honor that relationship of magic or magical via the blessing. Also, they might grant prayers. Group prayers might be done and they be granted. Then phase 5 is closing down and ending the rite. Thanking the deities is typically the first thing that's done. Here, the deities aren't dismissed at all. In fact, a lot of practices to encourage them to stick around if they want. But just to let them know that we thank them and that the reason why we called them there is fulfilled, so they can choose to leave or not in a clean manner or socially less friction creating manner. It's hard for me when I discuss creating friction without any real physical interaction that you do, as is true with friction between normal people. So friction with your deity might be perceived differently. I know in mine, my life starts to get more chaotic as soon as I start offering and going back to doing and being pious. And so that's one of the reasons why I try to do things respectfully to recognize that's the purpose. Then thanking the innkeeper, and also typically a lot of them when we call them. Information of success and continuity report. In ritual, our blessings are received rather than our blessings will be received and accepted, or rather than we hope our blessings are accepted. It's important to say it as if it is true. If you know anything about quantum physics and observing and creating your own reality or meditation and the power of affirmations, you'll totally understand that in order to create and dispel doubt, if you affirm that things have taken place, they're more likely to take place, especially over time. And this is also, the continuity is infused in this step by referencing those traditional things and or maybe the fantastical rub with us. As we're thinking this week, just touch a little bit traditional in this so we don't forget that. Then we merge the group, get it in a state where we can unhook it. And so, if the group mind is left, which or been in with this group, the group mind has been left and not dispelled properly, and I've kind of noticed not tension, but I've noticed external feelings in myself when a post is made. Sometimes I'll get a real weird feeling, and then I'll go to, or I'll feel an emotion for no reason, and I'll go to the Yahoo group and see somebody had posted, concern or some information that when I look at the date of the post, it was right when I was not feeling well or getting that. And so if we take down those psychic links, we can, our own thoughts will be diluted less by the thoughts of others. Do you have anything to add? Okay, because you look intent, I figured you might, and I want to give you guys that opportunity. We can also drift in and out of states indefinitely if we don't unlink the group mind. If we're still in the state we were in ritual, our mind might change states, but it won't be physically set. It's kind of like something blowing in the wind. You might, unfurl a sail, but unless you tie it down, it's just going to be flapping there. So you've got to kind of forcefully put things where you want them to be in order for them to permanently or indefinitely be there. Then unmerging the group mind is to bring the states of consciousness to the normal active level. And then the next step is draining off extra energy, and that very short step that's really done in any kind of way. I don't have any notes. The sixth but second to last portion of closing the rite is deconsecration of space and also time. Unless you have a temple or a permanent space, this